Hey there, and welcome back to ClearPath Conversations. I'm Mark Bernardin. Over the last two episodes, we've gone deep on the Program Resiliency Plan, what it is, what it evaluates, and how to run the 30-day execution cycle. We talked about the distinction between activity and survivability, the four dimensions of resiliency, the ownership model that activates when a PRP is in motion, and what minimum viability resiliency actually looks like as an exit condition. If you've been listening to those episodes, I suspect a question has been forming. Maybe you've even said it out loud. It goes something like this. I already have a success plan for my accounts. Why do I need this? Is the PRP replacing the success plan? Do I run both? Or when does each one apply? Those are exactly the right questions. And today we're going to answer them directly because the relationship between the PRP and the traditional account success plan is not obvious. And getting it wrong creates problems, either by treating the PRP as redundant or by abandoning the success plan in favor of it. Neither of those is correct. Let me start with what an account success plan is actually designed to do, because I think we use the term loosely, and that creates confusion. An account success plan, sometimes called a joint success plan, a customer plan, or an account plan, depending on your organization, is a forward-looking document that defines what success looks like for a specific customer. It maps the steps to get there, and it tracks the progress toward defined outcomes. It typically includes the customer's stated goals, the agreed upon metrics that will indicate progress, the key milestones on the path to value, and the mutual commitments that both sides are making. Done well, a success plan is a living agreement. It answers the questions, where are we going and how will we know we're getting there? It's the primary navigation tool for a healthy customer relationship. And it's one of the most powerful things a CSM can have in a partnership, assuming the account is in a position to use it effectively. Now, that last phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Assuming the account is in a position to use it effectively. Here's what I mean by that. A success plan requires a foundation. It requires an active champion with organizational standing. It requires a customer who can articulate their priorities clearly enough to codefine what success means. It requires that the initiative is tied to something the customer cares about right now. And it requires enough trust in the relationship that both sides will hold each other accountable to what's in that document. When these conditions are present, a success plan is a powerful alignment tool. When they're absent, a success plan becomes what most of us have seen at some point in our careers. A document that exists in your CS platform that was signed off on the first 90 days that really nobody has updated since, and that bears little resemblance to what the customer actually needs right now. The PRP does not replace the success plan, it does something different. The success plan is a navigation tool. It tells you where you're going. The PRP is a structural assessment. It tells you whether the account is capable of making the journey. Think about it this way. You can have the most accurate, well-constructed roadmap in the world, but if the vehicle has a structural problem, a tire that's failing, a brake system that's compromised, the quality of the map is irrelevant. You need to address the structural issue before the map is useful again. The PRP is the diagnostic that tells you whether the vehicle can make the trip. The success plan is the map. You need both. And when the PRP identifies a problem, addressing it restores the account's ability to benefit from the success plan. This is also why the PRP and the success plan operate in different conditions. The success plan is your standard operating tool across all active accounts. It's always in play. The PRP activates in a specific window when early instability signals appear in the account. Is no longer reliably moving towards its success plan milestones, but hasn't yet become a formal at-risk account. Let me walk through 3 account scenarios because I think the contrast becomes clearer in context. Scenario 1, a stable, healthy account, multi-stakeholder engagement, strong executive relationship. The customer can clearly articulate what they're getting out of the program and why it matters. Delivery is consistent, no risk signals are present. In this account, the success plan is your primary tool. The PRP is not active. You might apply the PRP's 4-dimension lens as a quarterly sanity check, a few questions you ask yourself to confirm that structural integrity is holding, but the framework itself is dormant. The account is well served by the success plan. Scenario 2 is an early instability account. Adoption's holding, but you've noticed that the primary contact has slowed their response time. You heard in passing that there's a reorg being discussed. The last executive business review was attended by only 1 person on the customer side, where it used to be by 3. And nothing's on fire, but something's shifted. This is where the PRP activates. The success plan still exists, but the account's ability to execute against it is now in question. You run the gating condition first. If the initiative is still tied to an active priority, you move into the 4-dimension assessment. The PRP's output tells you what needs to be corrected before you re-engage the success plan as the primary navigation tool. Scenario 3 is an active recovery account. The account has crossed the line into formal at-risk territory. There's an open escalation, stakeholders are disengaged, and the renewal conversation is contentious. This account is beyond the PRP. It needs a full recovery motion, a path to green process, a structured get well plan, and a war room level of cross-functional attention. I covered both of those in depth in episodes 7 and 8. The PRP is not the right tool here. The PRP's job was to catch this before it reached this stage. 3 scenarios, 3 different tools. The skill is in knowing which one applies. Now, let me address a question I've gotten from CSMs who've started using the PRP. What happens to the success plan when the PRP is active? The short answer is that the success plan doesn't go away, but it moves to the background temporarily. And here's why. A success plan is built on the assumption that you have the relational and structural foundation to execute against it. When the PRP identifies that foundation is compromised, that relationship density is a single thread, that narrative strength has degraded to the point where only one person on the customer side can explain the value, that structural risk signals are emerging. Pursuing the success plan milestones without addressing those conditions is like continuing to navigate while the vehicle is breaking down. You're measuring miles traveled while the wheel is about to come off. During an active PRP cycle, your energy goes into restoring the structural foundation, stakeholder expansion, narrative rebuilding, risk signal response, delivery stabilization. The success plan milestones wait, not because they don't matter, but because the work of the PRP is the prerequisite for them to be achievable. Once the PRP closes, once all 4 dimensions have reached minimum viable resiliency and the disruption test passes, the success plan comes back to center stage. And in many cases, what you learn during the PRP makes the success plan stronger. You know more about the stakeholder landscape. You've rebuilt the value narrative in current language. You've identified structural risks before they became account threatening. That intelligence makes the success plan more accurate, more useful than it was before. There's another dimension to this comparison that I want to name explicitly because it comes up when I talk to CS leaders about building portfolio management systems. The success plan is visible to the customer. It's a joint document. It's something you build together, you reference together, and you update it together. The customer is a participant in it. The PRP is internal. It's your assessment of structural integrity. The customer isn't walking through the 4 dimensions with you. They're not aware that you've activated a 30-day cycle. What they experience is a CSM who's more intentional about executive engagement, more deliberate about building relationships across their organization, and more proactive about ensuring that their value story is strong. The PRP drives that behavior, but it's not a document that you share with the customer. That distinction matters for a practical reason. The success plan requires customer participation to be accurate. If the customer isn't engaged in it, it becomes a vendor-side artifact that doesn't reflect their actual priorities. The PRP, by contrast, is something you can run on your own assessment of the account's structural health. You're not dependent on customer participation to start. You're dependent on it to validate. This is also why the PRP can activate before the customer is aware anything is wrong. In fact, when it's working as designed, the customer never knows there was a problem. They just experienced a CSM who showed up strategically and built a relationship that was stronger than it needed to be. I I want to close with something that I think is worth holding on to, regardless of which specific frameworks you use. The tools we use in customer success are only as good as our understanding of what problem each one is designed to solve. The success plan solves the navigation problem. It answers where are we going and how will we know that we're there. The path to green and get well plan solve the recovery problem. They answer how do we stabilize an account that's already in trouble. The PRP solves the structural integrity problem. It answers whether the account is built to hold under pressure, and it does so before the pressure arrives. Using the wrong tool in the wrong situation isn't just inefficient, it's actually harmful. If you run a success plan process on an account that has structural integrity problems, you create the appearance of activity and progress without addressing the underlying risk. If you activate a recovery motion on an account that just needs structural reinforcement, you create unnecessary urgency and you risk damaging a relationship that was recoverable through less intensive intervention. Tool selection is a judgment call that requires you to read the account accurately. That takes time to develop, but the frameworks give you the vocabulary to be precise about what you're seeing and what the situation actually calls for. I've spent my career building systems that answer the questions nobody is asking until it's too late. The PRP is the most direct expression of that instinct, a framework that forces the question of survivability before the account gives you a reason to ask it. When I built this framework, I tested it against real world conditions and refined it with input from practitioners who pushed hard on where it was incomplete, or unclear or even impractical. What came out of that process is a model that works inside the actual constraints of an enterprise customer success role. A full portfolio, limited resources, imperfect cross-functional alignment, and accounts that don't cooperate with neat timelines. The success plan tells you where you're going. The PRP tells you whether you're actually capable of getting there. Use them both. Use them in the right order and use them at the right time. That wraps up the PRP mini-series. In our next episode, we're going to shift gears. I want to talk about what executive stakeholders are actually evaluating when they sit across from a CSM. What makes them trust you? What makes them tune you out? And how to build the kind of executive credibility that sustains a relationship through organizational change, budget pressure, and the moments when things don't go as planned. Because strategy and frameworks are only as effective as the trust you've built with the people at the top of the customer organization. That's what we're covering next. The full PRP framework and companion worksheet are available at clearpathcx.com. The books The Path to Green, CSM's Personal Playbook, CSM Bootcamp, the Executive Business Review Playbook, and more. They go deeper on the adjacent frameworks that we reference throughout this series. Those books are available on Amazon. Follow the show on your favorite platform. Connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Mark Bernardin. And if the PRP changes how you're thinking about an account that you're managing right now, drop me a note. I read every one. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this work. And thank you for showing up and delivering every single day. I'll talk to you soon.